Hey there, VCE HHD students. My name's Andy. I'm a VC Health and Human Development teacher. In this short video, we're going to look at common mistakes to avoid in Unit 3, AoS Study 1. Obviously, this is relevant to Unit 3 for the 2025 plus HHD study design. If you don't already, you can see there's a range of different ways to engage with the Health Resources Hub. If you're on YouTube at the moment, you can subscribe with the button in the bottom corner of the video there to our YouTube channel. This means you'll get alert to all of our new videos coming out across the year. Also got our website, the hrh.net.au, where there's opportunities for students and teachers. Got our Instagram, TikTok, and our Health Resource Hub Facebook page where we share alerts and other opportunities. So please follow us there. And also our email if you'd like to get in touch. Okay, so in this video here, we're going to look at a number of common mistakes that students make in Unit 3 AoS Study 1. So hopefully that means you can not make these same common mistakes and ensure that you're trying to achieve maximum marks when you answer questions. So the first one here is forgetting to include examples of the dimensions of health and well-being. So I often say to my students that sometimes students underestimate the importance of knowing the dimensions of health and well-being and lots of different examples of each dimension really well, because you can really expect a significant number of questions across the year in your assessments and the end of your exam that come back to either health and well-being or health outcomes. And this means that you should be referring to specific dimensions and examples of those as part of your answer. And so you can see here that students often forget to include an example of the specific dimension that they're referencing or they're being asked to refer to as part of their answer. And instead, they just link from a particular concept to the dimension without including a clear example. So to demonstrate what I mean, I've given you just a sample question there. So that's asking how could attending school promote physical health and well-being. So you can see this question here is referencing a specific dimension. It's not just saying health and well-being in general. And so if this was worth a couple of marks, then you can see underneath there's a sample answer without a clear example of that particular dimension. So it's saying there, when students attend school, they have PE classes which promote their physical health and well-being. And so you can see what's happened there is that the students have referred to physical health and well-being, and they've also referred to something that can promote it, but they haven't given a specific link to an example of that dimension to show that they sort of, I guess, have more depth in their knowledge and understanding of that dimension. So underneath there, you can see a better alternative, okay, answer with a clear link to that dimension. So it says when students attend school, they have PE classes where they get involved in exercise and therefore increase their fitness levels, and that therefore could promote their physical health and well-being. So the underlying part there, referring to the exercise and increasing their fitness levels, is demonstrating you've got, okay, more sort of knowledge, I guess, regarding the specific dimension by giving a specific example, and that can help you sort of to achieve full marks for that particular question there. So make sure that when you go back and look at all the different dimensions that you know as many examples of each as possible. I always say to students as well that the more examples you know, the more flexibility you've got when it comes to answering a question like this. So it means that you've got more options in your mind of things that you can draw on and link to for that particular sort of scenarios. This one here is obviously linking into school, but you might get a case study or a scenario in your assessment or the end of your exam. And so by knowing different examples of all the different dimensions, it gives you sort of more flexibility and options to link something into that. Okay, number 2, forgetting to link to YLL, YLD, or DALI for questions that refer to burden of disease. So burden of disease is obviously a health status indicator, and so you could get a specific question asking about how something might impact on burden of disease or influence burden of disease, or it might be something that you choose to refer to if a question asks about a health status indicator. And what students often forget to do is they forget that burden of disease is measured in DALIs, which is made up of that formula YLL and YLD, and therefore as part of your answer, instead of just generally referring to burden of disease, you should be making specific links or references to either YLL, YLD, or burden of disease, depending on, once again, how many marks the question is worth and how you structure your answer. If you are referring to YLL, okay, remember that's use of life lost due to premature death, so make sure you're referencing premature death as part of that sentence there. And if referring to YLD, referencing time spent living with a health condition is a good link into sort of YLD. We have done a whole video on burden of disease, so if you head back to our YouTube channel and look at our back catalogue, you can check out that video, and this fleshes this out with some more examples. Third one here is forgetting to demonstrate the link between a factor and a health condition. So as you probably know, okay, you'll be expected to make links between risk factors such as smoking and vaping, alcohol, overweight and obesity, nutritional imbalance, and then there's all the biological, sociocultural, environmental factors. And so you should be able to link these to various health conditions. And I've talked about this once again in a previous video, because that then helps you to be able to link this into, say, health and wellbeing dimensions, as well as health status indicators. But many students state that a particular risk might contribute to a health condition without sort of briefly demonstrating how with a connecting sentence. So it's important to be able to use connecting sentences to link these different factors to health conditions to show once again that you know sort of some depth, okay, regarding how these risks impact on health and health conditions. So once again, to flesh this out, you can see there's a question there, a sample question: how could overconsumption of alcohol have an impact on a health status indicator, for 2 marks? And so then there's a sample without a link to a particular health condition. So you can see there it says consuming alcohol leads to weight gain and increases the prevalence of obesity. So it hasn't really detailed, okay, why alcohol contributes to weight gain and obesity. So the better alternative underneath mentions that alcohol is often energy dense, and therefore overconsumption could lead to excess kilojoule intake if that energy is not burnt off, and therefore that might contribute to weight gain and increased prevalence of obesity. So as you can see there, that connecting sentence showing that you understand that alcohol is energy dense, those kilojoules is what's contributing to the weight gain and the increased prevalence of obesity, okay, really makes that better alternative sort of stand out, and therefore you're more likely to retain full marks. So for all of those different sort of risks, I'd make sure as part of your notes that you know a range of different health conditions that they can link to, and make sure that for each one you've got some connecting sentences. I've sent out some resources as part of our free student newsletter that can help you to develop this skill. You can see down the bottom of the slide there, if you head to our website, the hrh.net.au, there's a link there. Unit 3 and 4 students can sign up to our free student newsletter. It comes out a couple of times a term with free SAC, exam resources and tips and advice. So please head to our website and sign up for that if you haven't already. Number 4, forgetting to mention both population groups and the variation in health status. So you can expect to have to answer questions related to the key skill mentioned there, okay, as part of your assessment in Unit 3 and 4. So it says, analyze health information to explain how factors can contribute to variations in health status between population groups. And so you might have talked about some specific population groups in class, but these might be presented to you, okay, as part of some data in a question that you might have to answer. And so when students are answering often questions, okay, related to this key skill, they often forget to refer to both population groups as part of their answer, and that can lose you a mark. And sometimes they also forget to refer to the specific variation, okay, or the specific difference in health status that exists between the population groups as part of their answer. They just generally refer to the term variation or the term difference, okay, and that once again can cost marks. So you can see there I provided like a sample question, and so this mentions that Australian males generally have a higher blood pressure, okay, than Australian females, and the question is then asking you to outline how that might contribute to variation in health status between these population groups for 2 marks. And so, as I said, this could be presented as part of some data, okay, in a question, or it could just be as presented there, simply stated and referred to, okay, as part of a question. Then you're asked how that might contribute to a variation in health status. So you can see the sample answer starts by saying, if Australian males experience a higher blood pressure than females, this is likely to increase the pressure on blood vessel walls, including the brain, and that might increase the risk of a rupture and a stroke, okay? So that increase in blood pressure, as it mentions there, okay, could disrupt or rupture, okay, say something like an artery in the brain, contributing to a stroke. You can see in that first sentence as well, both males and females have been referenced, okay, in the first sentence. So that's kind of ticking off that part of the question, or that part of this, I guess, common mistake that mentions that sometimes, okay, students just refer to one of the population groups. Then in the second sentence, you can see it says there, this may contribute to a higher incidence of strokes for Australian males compared to females. So you can see there, this is the difference in the health status that needs to be sort of referenced. You shouldn't just stop there once you've mentioned sort of stroke at the end of the first sentence. You have to then link that on to a variation or a difference in health status. So it says there contributes to a higher incidence, so that's the health status term, of strokes for Australian males compared to females. Sometimes students will then just say instead, as that last sentence, this contributes to a variation in health status, but that's too generic. You have to specifically say what the variation is. So that's what I mean here for this common mistake to avoid. Okay, hopefully you found those common mistakes useful. Just a reminder for Unit 3 and 4 students, I've worked on this resource. It's available via book.acevc.com, which is a book with over 500 marks worth of practice SAC and exam style questions, including a full chapter on extended response questions. So you can head there and order a copy of that with sample A+ answers, etc. So just head to book.acevc.com. You can also head to our website, thehrh.net.au, where there's lots of other opportunities for students and teachers, and that's updated throughout the year. So head there and check out what's available. Thanks so much.